I believe that a drug-free world can be possible one day.
If they're repeating that slogan in 2008, it's a tragedy.
I want to go there, to your drug-free world. But we live in this world.
Until the world is a perfect place, people are going to use drugs for a variety of reasons.
What we have seen in the name of a drug-free world is actually a war on drug users.
A drug-free world? Not yet, and probably not ever.
Let me take you back to 1998. At the opening of the special session, when the former Secretary General of the United Nations, Mr. Kofi Annan, said, and I quote, "It is my hope that when historians study the work of humankind in the field of drug control, they will write about the next few days as the point where this trend was reversed." He goes on to say, "It is my hope that they will record this at the time when the international community found common ground in the mission to create momentum towards a drug-free world in the 21st century," unquote. Let us therefore together keep that hope by garnering the necessary courage, for if we don't, we will lose the fight for a drug-free world. I think
10 years ago, the UNGASS came up with the slogan, "It's a drug-free world, we can do it," or "Drug-free world by 2008, I think was their first goal. Clearly, that hasn't been achieved.
So we've had an increase in drug court diversions. We've had an increase in prison population for people who use drugs. So we've actually had an increase in the amount of people using drugs. So a drug-free world? Not yet, and probably not ever.
I believe that a drug-free world can be possible one day if we all find a way to live together, and that drugs are not necessarily the problem in themselves, but are a symptom of many things that our society has that are wrong.
I was involved in the setting of the 1998 goals from a UK government perspective. Most of us knew then they were unrealistic. Most of us have known since that we will have to find some way of justifying. We have nowhere near met our targets.
If they're repeating that slogan in 2008, it's a tragedy, really. It's a denial of reality. A drug-free world is about as likely as a sex-free world or an insect-free world. It's sad that mentality is still pervasive in places where it really shouldn't be.
I'm seeing in some of the papers coming out for the 2009 meeting that there is a reasonable acknowledgement by, for example, Mr. Costa, that we have not met those goals and targets.
Any goals obviously will be aiming high to, and I think that just because they're not achieved 100%, I don't think that means we need to eliminate those goals.
That drug-free world, it's like, I want to be a famous rock and roll star, isn't it? I mean, there's something very, you almost want to feel sorry or empathic or compassionate towards the people who speak. I do.
I think we all have the goals of peace, we all have the goals of equality in the world, we all have the goals that if you think about them being impossible, then we give up and we say, okay, well, there'll never be world peace and there'll never be equality, so why should we try? I think that's not a very good argument. So whether they're realistic or not, I think we should keep aiming towards them and not expecting in 10 years or in 11 years to have them 100% realized, but expecting to try to aim as high as possible.
When they speak about a drug-free world, it's like, yeah, look, you want to go with that, I want to follow that. Yeah, I want to go there, to your drug-free world. But we live in this world where, as far as I'm aware, people have never not used drugs. Never. I understand the Eskimos or somebody didn't use it, whatever it was.
Until the world is a perfect place, people are going to use drugs for a variety of reasons. For amelioration of illness. And most of the people who use drugs whom I worked with for years on the street or whom I researched are suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder, depression, anxiety, long histories of abuse. The drugs have helped them in a way not to kill themselves, and they've said that directly, and I believe them. Unfortunately, they have a side effect of being addicted. They didn't intend to be, these people did not intend to become addicted. They intended to feel better and be able to function. They've been mistreated by the system, so drugs are serving that purpose. Secondly, drugs serve a religious purpose in some people, a spiritual purpose, and that needs to be recognized. Or a cultural purpose, too. That's third. And fourth, drugs give some people pleasure, and I put that in the area of alcohol, which is a very dangerous drug, but it gives people pleasure, and it's allowed. Nicotine, which gives people pleasure, it's a very dangerous drug. It gives people pleasure and calmness, and it's legal.
Well, it was a stupid slogan then, and it's even a stupider one now, because drug-free isn't just about illicit drugs. And so we live in a world in which people are being continually programmed to look for pharmaceutical ways to address their problems. So the idea that you could have a drug-free world in a world where new products are being put out every day for conditions people didn't even know they had is absurd.
I think even a drug user organization can agree that the world would be better if there were no drugs. That is without compromising the human rights of anyone. But in an ideal world, we would not need to take drugs. We would all be very happy, and we would not be killing each other and so forth, all the other bad things that are in the world.
What we have seen in the name of a drug-free world is actually a war on drug users. So we're not, even though the target is aimed at eliminating drugs, in many countries it's about eliminating people who use drugs, and that is completely unfair.
Well, from people who use drugs perspective, human rights violations happen not only in Southeast Asia, but also like in Russia, but also in Western Europe or in North America. People are caged in some countries. Incarceration is treatment. There still are many countries who have death penalty for drug offenses, forced treatment, or only to have a choice between incarceration or treatment, which implies that or you're a criminal or you're sick, and there's nothing in between. This is denying the individual in a way, and we don't feel like we're heading the right direction still.
Rather than looking at use, we need to be looking at where the harms are and making sure that everything we do reduces those harms. And that's the kind of stuff that we should be doing on a global level as well.
What we need to be looking at are ways to reduce overall use, because that will lead to less problematic use, but really focus on misuse or problematic use, and not so much whether we eliminate drugs altogether, because that's a totally unrealistic goal, and I think would do nothing but demoralize people involved in the process if that's what they're aiming towards. But if we can reduce use overall slightly, and we can reduce the harms associated with both drugs and drug policy, I think that would be a much more realistic goal for the CND to adopt in their 2009 10-year drug strategy.
We could be making much more progress if the goals that we set are more realistic and more inclusive of many different perspectives, because a lot of people don't support a drug-free world and find a lot of value in the existence of drugs and their usefulness in many different ways.
We should be at a point now where we're accepting the reality of both drug use and misuse, and dealing with that, managing the use and providing opportunities for treatment and a way out for people with misuse problems. Trying to get rid of it is it's bizarre. It's worse than bizarre, because what it does is create a prohibitionist policy based on abstention, eradication, that has brought misery, degradation and death to millions of people. And we need to stop that. We need to move towards a position of management, recognising the reality, and ultimately legally regulate the market so that people don't get forced into situations that you wouldn't put an animal in.